Morning. Welcome to Future of Our People. It's a podcast series dedicated to leaders who are shaping the future of work. Each week, we engage with CEOs and senior leaders, delving into transformative dynamics of today's workforce. The idea is to create authentic and real world content that resonates with professionals across different industries, offering them both inspiration as well as practical insights for their personal and professional growth. On that note, I'm thrilled to be joined by Mr. Vaadesh, who is the founder and CEO of Algoshock Technologies. Sir, it's a pleasure to have you with us. First and foremost, Happy New Year, and how are you doing?
Thank you, Kiran. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I'm sure it's going to be very interesting for me, and hopefully, I should be able to share some insights that others can leverage from. Happy New Year to you. It's been a quiet 2 weeks where we somewhat slowed down and enjoyed the accomplishments, of 2023, and looking forward to a great 2024. We already have 10 days into it and have picked up quite a bit. So looking forward to an exciting 2024.
No, thank you, Vadesh. Completely agree with you. We all need this break, right? Because we always get busy in these day-to-day activities, and we always need this break to even spend some quality time with the family. Right? We often talk about work-life balance, and great that you had a good break. And I really wish you for great success in 2024. But again, let's dive in, Vaadesh. You're a successful industry veteran who has more than 30 years of experience in product engineering, innovation, and IP creation. So my first and foremost is all about your company, right? Algoshock Technologies. We wanted to hear out your story, why you started it, what you do, and how you do. So it's great for viewers to learn about your company.
Sure. So in the first place, when a couple of us got together back in 2017, we wanted to give back to the industry. Having worked in the industry for over 28 years then, we certainly wanted to see how we could contribute back to the industry that, helped us grow. That's how it started. And then we said we should do something in the area that we are very familiar with. And then we said it's product development, product testing, and product engineering as a whole. Of course, I'm talking about software product engineering. We didn't want to do, one more services play. Certainly, that was not what we wanted to do. We wanted to do something in the product engineering space, and we wanted to do something in the product space. That was very clear. We wanted to build something of lasting value that we all can cherish for years to come. So then when we were scanning across development, build, test, deploy, we said the early application of machine learning, some of the cutting edge technologies of today, and I'm talking about 2017, we thought, the early application lies in testing and test automation. So we picked up test automation. I also, had this experience on my own watch, where automating testing of 100 test cases took about a year for a team of about 12 people.
Wow.
And we said, this is not going to work. I mean, if things take that long, if automation is so tedious, very challenging to accomplish, then that's not going to help unless you make automation faster, better. Unless you automate automation will never pick it up. So that's how we got started with Algoshock, and then we envisioned Algo QA. We started with some of the research papers from Central European universities. We didn't have any design in mind. We said, we should make the job of test automation very easy and accelerate it to a point where an 8-year-old is able to automate testing. So we didn't go by any preset design. We did it all ground up, and we engaged with the millennials at that point in time. Today, whoever joined us 6 years ago, today they actually are responsible for significant portion of the company, significant portion of the business that we are into. And we gave them freedom, freedom to think, freedom to design, redesign, pivot, so that they took complete ownership. The team took complete ownership for the product. Of course, I dreamt about it personally, and I shared my dreams. I shared my vision. I didn't have a design, I mean, technical design, so to say, or functional design for that matter. So all that materialized. People helped bring that to fruition because they took ownership. Or, I mean, it became a collective dream. It never remained my dream or the founder's dream. It became a collective dream. Of course, I still have challenges. How do I make sure that the it is shared across? Today we are about 175 people.
Wow.
How is it shared across? I mean, that still remains a challenge, but that's how we got started. And we have come a decent distance. We have filed a patent for the innovation that we have. We are now being recognized by some of the market intelligence leaders. One of them published about us as part of 12 automated testing companies about 3-4 months ago. And we have been picked up as the strategic partner by some of the Fortune 50 medical devices companies in the test automation space. We have received a couple of awards from our customers for our innovation, as well as, very interestingly, for delivery resilience. I mean, these two are, one is all about creativity and another one is all about predictability and being able to solve some complex problems no matter, what the challenges are. Yeah, so I think we have come some decent distance. I won't say, we are really successful. I mean, I think that's relative, but we are doing well as a team. On one side, we have 175 people. On the other side, we have many women folks on board.
It's amazing.
We have women on the board. We have women in the leadership team. If I'm right, about 33% of us are women, and that's not by design. It's happening very naturally, and that's helping us. That's helping us bring in compassion, becoming more complete a team, than not. So
I would say, Vaadesh, that's quite the journey. In fact, as I know you're quite modest in terms of saying that, but because you started from right, like with scratch with 1 or 2 people, and now you go 175 people in a span of 6-7 years. That's almost significant growth if you look at right or a year on year. And let's not forget we had COVID years as well in between. And how your dream, I love the way when you said your dream became into your reality, where it became a collective dreams, right? That's what the hallmark of a great leader, right? Where your dream and vision has become a vision for rest of the things. And I also love the fact that how you also laid the platform for millennials to come in and to learn. And now they are the kind of shaping out to your future leaders as well.
Yeah.
And bringing that diversity and inclusion, bringing that women leadership. So this is all sounds great. I mean, I can imagine again, this is all great, as you rightly pointed. It should not be easy as well, because one of the things that as a leader I believe we have to deal with is a constant change, right? And adaptability is the key. So how has your leadership style evolved, Vaadesh, since the time you started from 2017, and especially in the pandemic times and post-pandemic? So is there anything you would love to share about your leadership style, how it has evolved, especially post-pandemic?
Sure. So, yeah, first of all, back in 2017, 2018, when we started with Algoshock, we were very clear in our mind, if we are not able to leverage millennials,
Mm.
then we are not going to succeed. So, for the first time, when we decided upon a location to work from, it was a cafe. It
Okay.
was, where they served food. They served food 3 times a day, and they would serve continental food.
Okay.
And this was in JP Nagar, and there was no specific seating arrangement. You would find bean bags, you would find people working out of the balcony, and so on. I mean, having worked in the industry for 28 years in the corporate world, personally, I was formal. I was more formal. But then I wanted to change. And we forced it upon ourselves to be different and not follow the same model that we followed back in the corporate world. We tried everything differently. Of course, there was no design, and we chanced upon this institute called Q Spiders,
Okay.
and we picked the people from Q Spiders. Not that we knew about Q Spiders prior to 2018. That was also an exploration. I mean, when you decide to go down this path, you meet with many people. In that journey, you meet with people who have some experience in that journey, who share their insights, their experience with you. So that's how we ended up going to Q Spiders, picking up people from Q Spiders. That is how we ended up setting up our, initial office, so to say, quote unquote, um, from a cafe. So leadership style had to change. It had to change. We said we will not have any bonds, so to say.
Mm.
In spite of some of us saying we have to have bonds, collectively we said no bonds. People should come here, should stay with us because they enjoy working with us and not because they have a bond that they have signed, not because there is a legal document that is preventing them from leaving.
Okay.
Um, Things like this. And then, we said we should have policies that are vetted by legal team. So we have to have world
Mm.
class policies. We have to have everything that a corporate would have, whether it is leave policy, whether it is rewards and recognition, whether it is gratuity, whether it is PF. You know, First of all, be a good citizen, a
Mm.
compliant citizen, and then on top of it, we also brought in ESOP. We said that's one way to make people part of this initiative by distributing shares. And trust me, people who don't value paper. So we had to explain to them what it meant and what it could mean in the times to come, right? And we said the foundation. I mean, we came up with values, our
Mm.
core values, and we continue to define them. We didn't stick to one definition. We keep on refining, adding more and more narrative to it, to each of the values that we have identified. But we said trust, no software that will spy on people. On one fine day, in March 2020, we had to work from home.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we had deployed laptops from day one. We didn't have desktops at all.
Yeah.
And the tools that we have had were very minimal, and we leveraged cloud. So the minute we decided to work from home, it was seamless. People could all work from home. But we didn't know that people would work from home forever. That was a surprise, right? So not that it was easy. Personally, it was a struggle. In spite of saying, you trust people, suspicion lingers. And I'm being very honest. Um, So we had to overcome this. Our own uh, mental blockades we had to overcome to say no software to spy around. And there are so many vendors trying to sell software.
Wow, I
So
didn't knew that. Okay.
yeah, I mean, you will find many people trying to sell software to manage people remotely, and many of these are intrusive in nature.
Wow. Okay.
So we said no to all that, and people really went their home. And even today, our development and testing teams, majority of them work from home. Of course, we want to bring them back because there are certain advantages in being collocated. No matter what software you have for collaboration, there are certain constraints. I think trusting, dealing with adults as adults, quite a bit of it I think we have learned in these 6 years.
I
I
can
don't know we did it that well when we were in the corporate world, honestly speaking. And I'm also inspired by this book I read by Ricardo Semler,
okay.
a book by name Maverick. I read it only about 3 4 years ago. It must have been there for quite some time.
So what were the key takeaways from the book?
The key takeaway is that you can democratize a company.
Okay. Interesting.
Ricardo Semler talks about how he went about democratizing his company, what all changes they had to do. And if I'm right, in his company in South America, they even publish the remuneration, the pay package, and it gets approved by peers, etc. I don't remember the exact process, but it's that transparent. And he has encouraged all his employees to become entrepreneurs in their own way, and they still are together collectively as a federated company. So I don't know whether we can, and it's very interesting that my neighbor runs Semco Style Institute.
Okay.
Semco Style Institute is Ricardo Semler's institute, and he runs the franchisee in India. I didn't know that when I read the book, and when I had so after a few days, I knew he was doing a training institute. I didn't know that it was
Based on
connected to Ricardo Semler
okay.
in whatever fashion. So I still haven't been able to leverage anything in particular, but if there is one big agenda for people, that is to empower them, treat them as adults, and probably help democratize the
I
place.
think,
I don't know whether I'll ever be able to achieve it, but on my watch. But I hope the company achieves it at some point in time.
I mean, it's an ongoing, right? Vadesh, you
Yeah,
mentioned two great points about being trust, right? How do you inspire trust and getting
yeah,
that transparency among team members, right? Especially when you have a hybrid workforce, it is based on the trust and transparency. What I liked about is when you started, right, is having that purpose. When
yeah,
you have the purpose, it connects people, right? You're a purpose-driven organization where there is a reason, right? You don't have a bond, but there is a purpose that is kind of subconsciously binding you, and there's a culture as well, right? So you mentioned about your values, and I know that keeps on evolving. What are the values of your organization?
and again, the acronym is CLEAR.
Okay, clear.
C for customer, C for compassion, L for leadership, E for execution, A for aspiration, and R for resilience, R for results. We have multiple definitions for each of them. Yeah, so I was telling people earlier we said R for results,
Hmm.
and very recently I said R is also for resilience.
Yep.
As a company, never run away from any challenge. Deal with challenges head on. Put in concerted efforts. It may look insurmountable in many ways, but if you are at it and if you beat it daily, if you chip away things on an ongoing basis, then you will be able to, address those challenges. And we live that, most of what we spent in 2023. I mean, to me, 2023 happens to be a lot more challenging than 2020. Yeah, 2020 is when pandemic hit us, probably 3 months of ambiguity. Things looked very dark, but then
Why
something or
was
the other.
2023 challenge, Vaadesh? Why was, I mean,
In general, industry slowed down.
okay.
I think many companies perished. Uh, that's what I read in many places. So many got laid off. Not all of this would be in social media or in the news, but I know based on my own experience. By the way, I interview, or rather, I meet with everyone who we hire um, as part of that hiring process, so that I get to know them. I get to know what's happening around. More than the social media or the newspaper, I really get to learn a lot. When I talk to people. So a lot of bloodshed, I think, in 2023. Um, and we are no exception. I think we grew. In spite of the challenges, we grew, but we didn't grow as much as we grew the previous years.
Is it
Of
fair to
course,
say, Vaadesh, that you've grown by almost 57% over the last 2 years? I was just looking at some of the data point. In Jan 2022, you were around 106 employees.
yeah, easily.
Easily, and now you've are 175. It's almost like 57 to 60%, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is fair. Yeah, but I'm only comparing 2023 with my 2021 and 2022.
Yes.
So in relative terms, probably 2023 was tougher. And we also picked up some very complex programs in
Okay.
2023. I wouldn't name, but some of the tier two services players tried it out for a couple of years. They couldn't solve. We solved it in about a year at a price point which is probably 1/10 of what others charged.
Yes.
So we solved some real complex problems. So built our capability in 2023. So I think we made significant investments in 2023 for the years to come. Let me put it that way.
So hats off to you, Vaadesh. And I think that, we talk about courageous leadership, right? I mean, despite macroeconomic indicators where there is a lot of supply chain disruptions, there is high interest fluctuation, currency volatility,
yes,
few microeconomic challenges where it comes to attracting and retaining talent, to cash flows and credits, right? You kind of significantly kind of grown over the last 2 years, but yet you have taken a directives to scale your business for growth in the coming years.
yes,
Right. That's pretty impressive. And thanks for sharing your values. I really love this acronym, CLEAR. Right. I mean, people can remember that, right? You know what does CLEAR means, what our core values are. But let's go a bit more deeper, Vaadesh, in terms of culture, right? How would you describe the culture of your organization, right?
So I think it's a good question. In fact, I've hired some people into our people function for setting culture.
Okay.
I feel, when we were together in one room in the cafe, we were smaller.
Yes.
At that time, we couldn't fit into a cafe now. At that time, they all saw each other and we built better bond. But after pandemic, we are quite distributed. And even the 174 people, 75 of us are in Marthali.
Okay.
And the balance are elsewhere. And even within Marthali, in the same building, we are now more distributed than not. I mean, in my mind, we are not as closely connected as we used to be. I think if there is one thing that we appreciate, that is the opportunity to learn.
Okay.
Opportunity to learn and grow. And that's I keep telling people, what do we offer? We offer an opportunity to learn. Everything else is incidental, but the key offering is opportunity to learn. And as a company, we learn a lot. I mean, what we were in first year, what we were in second year, if you see the difference, I mean, we learned and we grew. I mean, we didn't have a product for which we had a design, right? I mean, so we designed it on our own, we modified it every time. Even when it came to business model, there was nothing set. So everything had to be built ground up by learning from the customers, from the market, from our people, right? And people that we interact with, partners and vendors. And no bias, no age bias,
Okay.
no experience bias. If you are addressing any one social cause, and that is bias,
Hmm.
specifically age bias, because with AlgoQA, our platform, anyone can automate testing. If you are experienced, you can use it to automate testing. If you are a fresh graduate, then you too can automate testing using AlgoQA. So in the first place, we remove biases. AlgoQA removes biases, we remove biases. It's easier said than done. Our customers have rejected when they saw
Okay.
young folks in front of them. But we persisted. We said, check the output, check the outcome. Don't go by the impressions.
So there was a lot of re-education for your customers as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there is always some back and forth move,
Okay.
right? Not that they accept what you say. So there is always pushback, and even those who joined us, from other organizations, lateral hires, there was a barrier between those who joined us, fresh out of college, and the lateral recruits. It took some time.
And in fact, sorry, Vaadesh, I meant to. That's where I see a big challenge, right, Vaadesh?
Yes,
Especially when you're growing from 0 to 25, it's easy, right? It's, I
yes,
mean, to maintain your culture, it's
yes,
easy. And when you
easy.
grow from more than 25 to like the way you have scaled your operations, right, over the last
Yeah,
6 years, let's go back last 2 years, the way you scaled, to maintain that culture of learning, to maintain that culture of having no bias,
yeah,
and I see many companies are struggling or perhaps have that challenges, and that has its own repercussions, right? Because that's the way people leave, that's the way they become stressed and everything. But I just wanted to gather your thoughts, like when you're saying that, right? Just to maintain that same culture, it's challenge, right?
it is a challenge. I feel it gets diluted at times, but then
Yes.
I think if you are at it, if you make it a priority, then it works. I mean, we still are in touch with most of the employees on an ongoing basis. We have kept the organization fairly flat, no hierarchy. And when you practice it personally, I think it helps. But it is not easy. I mean, that is why I said, we hired people into people function, and I'm asking every day, all that is okay. I mean, what you have to do on an ongoing basis is fine, but help me build the culture. Culture that will eventually empower people in the true sense, where we deal with, adults as adults. And I'm borrowing this from, you know,
Ricardo.
yeah, Ricardo something. This is not mine. I mean, it's easier said than done. We see there are many places we start influencing, sorry, rather instructing, coercing. And I'm not an exception, right? I mean, we are all human beings and we have been brought up in some manner. And to really take that route, and this wasn't easy for Ricardo Semler. He himself has articulated all his struggles in that book, Maverick. Um, so I think it's a journey. I think it is just a north star, and you can only walk towards it. Probably you will never reach there. Yeah, but my challenge is to share that common purpose, common vision across the board. Continues to be a challenge, especially when you don't have enough time, right? I mean, bootstrapped startup, we have bandwidth challenges. Resources are scarce. So how do you really achieve it? So there is We have to work harder.
I mean, to be honest, Vaadesh, and I think this is a challenge for many as well.
Yeah,
So you're just not one
yes,
who is facing this. As I said, right, the faster you scale, the dilution happens at your cultural level, and that's where the different leadership styles required in terms of getting to a high performing culture. Right. And the great part is you acknowledging that and we always talk about when it comes to leadership is being vulnerable, right? And you
absolutely.
acknowledge the fact that there's always a problem and there's a different ways that you could tackle it and to take your culture to a high performing culture as well. So going back to go more deeper, Vadish, in terms of your workforce. So how do you see, because we're living in the generative AI era, right? Where I could see, in fact, I was just reading a research report from one of the well-known Gallup, right? They were saying that almost 45% of employees worldwide are stressed, or could be for many reasons, or they're quite quitting, right? They're quite quitting on a fact because there are many factors associated with that. But in this generative AI era, where people are thinking about VUCA world, right? What's going to happen with my job? Everything is automated. Like you have a technology that is automating, right? And what happens if they roll off AI? So there's a lot of constant distress that is happening at the people. And so in terms of how do you see, again, we wanted to see your point of view in terms of how do you see the role of workforce evolving in your company for the next 5 years?
So, first of all, we are also investing into this machine learning and AI space.
Okay.
AlgoQA has a Gen AI like feature where if you prompt it with few words, it produces test cases for you. We don't leverage any of the large learning language models.
Yep.
We don't use any of those LLMs, but we have something very similar. So we believe that machine learning has to be embraced into the product so that we remain relevant on an ongoing basis. This was part of our original vision. So
Okay.
we didn't have to do anything very different. We saw this coming. Now, when it comes to workforce, I think there is so much to be done in productizing what Gen AI can do. That is where the focus needs to go. I mean, rather than competing with it and worrying, what if it takes away my job? I think how do I become relevant? I think that has to be everyone's approach.
It's more of reskilling and upskilling.
Reskilling, upskilling. And on the other side, if I go by test automation is an unresolved problem. In spite of all that happened, probably since 2005 onwards, even today, 50% of the testing worldwide, I'm going by the size of the opportunity, 50-60% is manual.
Okay.
I mean, there is so much
Opportunity
more to be done.
Yes.
So I think opportunity is there with the tools like AlgoQA or with Gen AI. You will be able to do more with less. There is so much that we haven't been able to do for want of bandwidth. I mean, I'm talking about across the industry. And that is the opportunity that we can tap into. So, as long as learning is the focus, we are good. So, I see this, there are people who say, I know Java Selenium and I want to work, in Java Selenium only for life. That's not going to work for people, right? Because, at one point in time, QTP ruled the roost, and then people thought when Selenium came into existence, people thought it would be the panacea for all problems. But then came Playwright, Cypress, WinApp WebDriver, IO. Technology will evolve, will continue to evolve if the fundamentals are good. If one knows how to design, one should be able to move from one to another. And I think that openness, willingness, flexibility is required. I think people should be enterprising. Then this won't be a
Challenge.
challenge. I'm sure we will get there. Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to your culture, right? You mentioned about the growth culture, the willingness to learn and everything. If that is imbibed, and as you rightly pointed, is reskilling and upskilling, because there's a lot of market opportunity there for you still to excel, right? So one of the things we see, Vadesh, is in the current VUCA world that we are living in, right? There's so much of volatility, uncertainty in the marketplace. So employee engagement has been one of the hot topic. Is how do you
Yes.
keep your employees engaged and connected so
Yes.
they are productive? As you rightly pointed, you want to do this so much, you could do more, because if the employees are disengaged, you see certain traits that they're not being the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
So what practices do you follow in your company to get your employees engaged and connected?
Sure. So, in the first place, we used some tools,
Okay.
new age tools. I mean, we use KK HR,
What is that?
um,
Sorry, sir.
KK HR,
Okay.
which is a new age HRMS tool.
Okay.
It helps you engage with people like Facebook.
Okay.
Of course, today even Office 365 also helps you engage with your people. I'm now talking about some tools, but fundamentally, no one, I mean, we are a product company and we have a SaaS business. We also have enterprise business. Enterprise business is where we deliver services leveraging Algo QA, and that is where we deploy people. We have no concept of bench. There is no bench whatsoever.
Okay.
Everyone is engaged in that sense. I mean, and we really mean that, and it is very important for us.
Yes.
No one is left out. Everyone is engaged in one initiative or the other. That's very important for the company. Point number one. Point number two, we also have a performance management system that has goals, that has tracking of competencies, that has alignment with our clear values, tracked on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
Now, goals are very simple. I'm just making up. You are supposed to reach 1,000 users, as part of premium plan. Have you been able to reach there or not? Or, you are supposed to train 20 customers. Have you been able to do it or not? It's as
Yes.
simple as that. I mean, it's so objective that you can either tick it or cross it. There is no, two ways of going about it. We are not there yet, but we're getting there in that
Okay.
process of implementation. And then competencies, I'm just to giving you some examples. So you have soft skills, and then you have technical skills, functional skills, process skills, etc. We have divided programming languages. So we are saying if you are a software engineer, then your proficiency level against programming languages should be 2 in a scale of 1, 2, 3, 4. And if it is 2, it means you have scored 75th percentile in HackerRank.
Okay.
It is as simple as that, or it is as complex as that. It is simple to state, but it's not easy to achieve for people. So we have competencies tracking, not for penalizing people, but to help people grow, right? And then there is rewards and recognition.
Okay.
But more importantly, we have a program called the Challengers and Change Makers.
Okay.
Change makers are those fast track talent that have spent about a year in the company, and challengers are those that have spent about 2 years in the company. So that is our way of tracking fast track talent, and we published the list every 6 months. It's an event for the company.
So you publish within internal, is it?
Internally, within the company.
Yeah. Okay.
All 175 people would know who are
Okay.
the challengers, who are the change makers.
That's very interesting, by the way.
Because, if you leave it one on one, then you don't stand the scrutiny. So when you publish it, you stand the scrutiny.
Yes.
If you pick people and call them change makers, if you are not able to retain them, and that becomes obvious to people. Or, if you have not been objective in choosing them, then also you would get to hear from the rest of the people. So, and giving that visibility, making it very important, also forces us to do something for them on an ongoing basis. So that's what we do.
No, it's very interesting. I really love the concept of this challenges and change makers, right? How you make it transparent and forcing it as well. And you also mentioned some of the reward and recognitions and having that robust performance systems. These are pretty amazing. So moving forward, Vaadesh, what role does leadership have to play in ensuring that employees are satisfied and so their performance goes to level? Do you think leadership has a critical role to play?
They have a major role to play. I think today what the founders are doing, we expect the next level leaders to do, be it fixing salary revision, fixing the pay packages, whatsoever it is. I mean, that's where we want to go. And we want to build, we are still small, we are only 6 years into this, but we really want to identify talent who can play the role that founders are playing today.
Yes.
So we are very particular about it, and we are grooming people right now. It's very interesting to see. Today we have people with 20 years of experience in the leadership role. We also have people with 6, 7 years of experience in that band. It's very interesting to see how they grow. I mean, if you are watching them closely, you see them grow every quarter, every month. They surprise you. I mean, I think that's priority, and is democratizing is the long term plan or vision for the company. That's how we see it at this juncture.
No, I completely agree with you as well, Vaadesh. And I think leadership has a huge role to play.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a point, right? And I think these young millennials who are working, right? In fact, in the past, annual reviews was one of the ways the feedback, but now millennials are expecting weekly, in fact, daily feedbacks uh, for them to perform. So we're seeing the kind of employee expectations are shifting now with millennials. Now you got Gen Z who are coming with a different expectations. So it's lasting. So finally, Vaadesh, but do you have any wisdom to share to any leaders who are growing their team? Do you want to share about yourself and your company for our viewers?
One thing that I have learned in the past 1 year is that you can't think about investing only in the initial years of your startup. You have to invest every year. You have to invest in people, you have to invest in technologies, but I think more importantly, you have to invest in people. And when there is a challenge, don't run away from it. I think it would help if you show your teams how challenges can be addressed. And I can give you one example. There was this contract, 5 months contract. 15 people were to work on it.
Okay.
Obviously, we underestimated. Neither did the customer know what it would take, nor did we know. And we were approaching it very differently. So that was also in the mix. Ultimately, it took 30 people for 13 months.
Okay.
We didn't trust it on the team to deliver. We added people, we worked with them, and we showed them that this too is possible. It looked very challenging. It wasn't easy to communicate this with the customer. It wasn't frictionless. But we didn't pass it on to the teams to somehow slog it out. One thing I will tell you, personally, I never asked people to work on weekends.
Yeah, amazing.
I don't say it, so no one says it. We never asked people to work on holidays. We never ever have calls after 7 o'clock in the evening and before 10 in the morning. And it's working. This was not my experience when I was in the corporate world, where I myself took calls at 2 a.m. in the morning. So I would expect everyone else to do it.
it's amazing coming from a leader, right? Saying that you don't work in the weekends, or which is very unlike in what we see or what we often hear, either from corporate, even for things. But kudos to your leadership, Vadesh, and to your team who kind of shaped this culture out.
This is quite subtle. We have never said it in those many words. But that's what it is. I mean, and it helps. I don't know whether that is right or wrong, but in the hindsight, when I look back and check all my 33 years, this stands out. This is not how we operated in the first 28 years. Of course, personally, I have to catch up with my work on Saturday and Sunday, and I try to keep it very quiet. I work on my mails, but I don't really intrude into someone else's life. And it is fine for people to respond whenever they get back to us. We never said you respond over the weekend. So this has been a very subtle, but yeah, is one aspect of the culture. I can talk about it now because we have spent 6 years and substantial, I think.
I mean, these insights, Vadesh, are very valuable. And in fact, when you said like invest in your people, which is fundamental, right? There is a very famous quote from Jake Ziegler: "You don't build the business, you build the people, and
Yeah.
your people build the business," right?
Yeah.
And Vadesh and Anan, it's been absolute pleasure, in fact, discussing these insightful topics with you. Thank you for joining us and sharing your journey at Algoshock Technologies, right? I mean, we wish you and your team continued success. And thank you very, very much for your time. And thanks for our listeners. Thanks for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to explore the future of our people. Have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you, Kiran. Thanks so much for the opportunity. And I also wish all the very best for this platform as it takes off. Sharing is caring. I think this is the best thing that one could do. I wish I could do this, honestly speaking. Thanks so much.